my fellow readers. Today I'm going to be reviewing the full series of Summertime Rendering, and I got them in the 2 Barnes & Noble box sets, so there were 6 large volumes altogether, so I think this was originally a 12-volume series, because I think they were broken in 2, but anyway, it's released here, 2 box sets of 3 large volumes, and I don't remember, I think I was probably in one of my kicks where I was looking for like more horror-focused manga. That would be my guess when I picked up Summertime Rendering. I have not seen the show yet. There is an anime for this, but I haven't seen it yet. But this is a mystery/horror manga, and I'll quickly read the back and then I'll go into more about the series and my thoughts on it. I read this very quickly. I did about a volume a day, so about 6 days. Hearing the news of the passing of his childhood friend Ushio, Shinpei returns to his hometown in the remote island of Hitokashima to attend her funeral. Little does he know that it is the beginning of a summer full of mystery and horror. No one is prepared for the time-twisting adventures ahead that defy life and death. So I would also say this is a bit of sci-fi. So it's like sci-fi blend with horror and mystery. So Shinpei does go back to his hometown after hearing that Ushio has died. And when he gets there, he meets up with Ushio's sister, who now I'm forgetting her name, but they run into each other. And over the course of their meeting and everything, well, and actually, there's somebody else that he meets too that becomes a key player, but none of that matters. In general, there is a shocking event that happens during like this festival at this time, and there's a lot of murder and blood and death, and Shinpei himself ends up dead as well, but upon dying, he actually cycles back to the past and restarts everything. And so in this town, there are these shadows. I'll call them shadows, but there is like deeper lore here. But the shadows can take on the form of other people. So if you are touched by these beings, they can take on your form. More often than not, they kill you, and then they can kind of spread throughout the town and continue killing the people of the town. And they kind of need to feast on the people. And so you have Shinpei, who is trying to put a stop to this. Mio, I think that's the sister. Am I right? Is Mio? Anyway, there is like a core group of people, including the sister, that there's a lot of time play here where we're rewinding time and going back. But each time they can kind of connect to people and are just trying to gain allies, but also information as to what's going on. What are these shadow creatures, and how can they defeat them and save the world, but specifically the island home that they know of. And for the most part, I did find this very intriguing. There is also, I don't know, you may notice in some of the artwork that there will be Ushio. She is the blonde girl in this. Ushio is still a key player in this, because as it turns out, and so there's mild spoilers, but I'm not going to get too much into anything because this is pretty much shown right away. There was a connection to a shadow right away, and that shadow has taken on the form of Ushio. And so even though the Ushio that Shinpei knew back in the day is gone, there is a shadow Ushio who comes in her place. And so it's kind of the interplay of the normal human people and the shadow people and what's going to happen there. And I did find it intriguing. I liked seeing the relationship. The breakdown of the lore is really good. I don't want to get into all that because I think it's just a fascinating story in general, but it kind of shows how there could be this impetus story that led to this greater legend that occurs. I don't know. I thought that was well done. I would be interested to see how the anime adapts the story. But in general, like a lot of the key driving factors are just typical story factors. You have relationships of characters, and you have Shinpei, who had very strong feelings for Ushio. strong. That's a very mild way of putting that. He really was in love with her, and she loved him, but he left their hometown. Now, there was like tragic stuff that happened in Shinpei's background that tie into that whole reason, but he left, and so Ushio always felt abandoned, and they left kind of in a negative way where the two were fighting. And so when he finds out that she died, like, he's kind of torn about that, because I think he always felt like they would reconcile, and then her dying kind of, that chance is gone. And so I think that hit him harder. The little sister, who I'm pretty sure is Mio, and if I'm getting that wrong, I feel so bad. She actually has feelings for Shinpei as well. And so there is kind of just this small element that's, you know, covering Shinpei's feelings and what will happen. On top of that, there's another character in the friend group that actually likes Mio, and it all is like this big circular thing that sounds more complicated than it actually turns out to be. But it's just interesting seeing their interplay and what they're willing to do for one another, because there is actually this deep connection and feelings for one another. And I don't know, I liked that aspect of it. So it wasn't just strict horror, it wasn't just strict sci-fi, time traveling, and it wasn't just the mystery of what's going on in this town and how to solve it. It was all of these little pieces put together, and how great the characters were that made it an engaging story for me. And I really did like this one. I like this better than a lot of other recent ones that I've picked up. And I'm kind of sad that I put it off for so long, because I did end up enjoying it so much. Like, I bought this, geez, I think over a year ago, and it's just been sitting here waiting for me to read it. I had picked up Volume 1 and read that a while ago. I actually had to do a reread of Volume 1 because it had been so long between then and when I picked the series back up. Because I feel like maybe back October-ish, September, October, I might have been deciding, like, scary things to read. I don't even remember if that was this October. That might have been the previous October. I have some searching back to do about when I got this. But what happened is I read like the first volume or a couple of volumes of each one, because this is really like two, to get a feel of them. And Summertime Rendering is one that kind of missed out at that time. And I read the other manga series instead, including, I think that was during the time that I read Can't Stop Cursing You and Phantom Tales of the Night. I think I had tried like each of those, and I went with those ones over Summertime Rendering. But one, I always knew I would get to it. It was kind of well stored in its own little box set, so I wasn't worried about that. But I think it's a shame that I didn't get to it for a while, because it is really good and it was worth a read. Again, now I kind of want to check out the anime, see how they did with it, because it's a good cast of characters. There's another story in here that kind of ties into the character I sort of mentioned earlier. It's someone that Shinpei meets on the train. I think it was the train. I'm in Japan, so usually it's a train. Into the town, who, again, she turns out to be a key figure, but has like this amazing backstory that I really, really loved. And it just made the character and the relationships even more interesting and really played into the heart of the story. And yeah, I thought that was really, really good. I would recommend Summertime Rendering if you do like the horror blends. I'm obviously a big horror fan, so I really enjoyed the series. But if you do like horror blends, and especially horror that does have a lot of good character development and relationships, I would pick up Summertime Rendering. I don't have too much more to say about it other than pick it up. I think the characters are good. And there wasn't like an overwhelming amount of characters, if that makes sense. Like, this is a small town, so you're not inundated with characters. There really is like the core group that you're with and you stick with, which I appreciate, because I do not like stories that have like 20,000 characters, because I will not remember those characters. I'll pick out like one or two that I enjoy, and I will never know the names of the rest. Like, I have a hard enough time remembering names of characters that I do like. So, and again, I think that's why I don't like really long shonen titles. But this, quick, easy read, small cast of characters, very relatable very readable. I liked it. Again, I would recommend it. You can still get it separately. I do not know if Barnes & Noble is still selling the box sets. Possibly. But that's it. That is it for this video. Until next time. Bye.